Welcome to Issues of Contemporary Politics with Dr. Brovkin. Today I'd like to talk about the political crisis in Germany. Germany had a ruling coalition and now it collapsed. And it is scheduled to have a vote of no confidence into the government of Scholz, led by Social Democrats, SPD. And the new elections are scheduled for February 23. So let's just briefly try to explain, for those of you who do not follow German politics as professionals and acute observers, what is going on, why this has happened, and what are the prospects for the future. So the current German political coalition consists of three political parties: SPD, Social Democrats, the Greens, and the so-called Free Democrats, FDP. Now, the Social Democrats had traditionally been one of two major political parties in Germany. It has a long history. It was started in the 19th century. At that time, it was a Marxist party. Then they became more and more working class parties, similar to Labour in Britain or Parti Socialiste in France. And then up to the 1970s and 80s, they were considered a kind of a left-wing Labour party in favor of all kinds of social reforms and services for the working people. Now, in the last 20 or 30 years, this has been a kind of a transformation of the SPD into what one could call a kind of a Atlanticist, globalist, woke, green-leaning political party. In other words, there's more staunch Atlanticists than the United States. They're for NATO. They are for the green agenda. They were obviously for helping Ukraine in so-called aggression from Russia. That's what Scholz is for. And it is on that basis, pretty much on the green agenda, that they allied themselves with the Greens. Now, the Greens also had a tremendous transformation from the 1980s. At that time, it was a pacifist party. It was against nuclear power and missiles in Europe. And then it had this change that completely turned completely around. It became a woke culture party. It became very staunchly for NATO, against Russia, against any kind of rapprochement or anything on the Ukrainian issue, strongly supported Atlanticist support for Ukraine, and it's just unrecognizable. The only thing they kept was their commitment to a green agenda, which is phasing out oil, phasing out gas, phasing out anything other than wind and solar and so forth. So this is the Greens. Now, the FDP, the Free Democrats, is a small political party. It has always been very small, and sometimes it doesn't even get 5% necessary to get into the parliament, Bundestag. And they've been kind of on and off. Traditionally, they've been a party that allied itself either with the big one, SDU, or the SPD. What is the opposition? And there are two big blocks of opposition. The most important part is the CDU opposition to the current government. So what is the CDU? This is the biggest political party in Germany. It has been steadily losing. It's a party of Angela Merkel. It is the party that has been in power more than any other party during the existence of the Federal Republic of Germany, starting with Adenauer. So this is a very important political party, but it has been losing, especially under Merkel. This is why they lost to the SPD in 21, and it has been trying to reestablish itself. So it's a business party, it's a conservative party. It has a very steady electorship, base in western parts and southern parts of Germany, especially CDU has its partner party, which is called CSU, the Bavarian component. So it's a very strong party. Now it is led by Mr. Merz, and his remarks are very important in terms of what he stands for. So he's in opposition to SPD, and what this is, he's blaming SPD and the Greens for the current German problems. Now, Germany faces serious problems because its industry is in decline. It actually is in recession. It has 0.7 growth rate. The Volkswagen is closing its plants. Its industry is losing in competition to China and to the United States. A lot of companies are just shutting down or moving, some of them to the United States. Some of them just can't afford the competition. So he's blaming all of that on Scholz. And of course, this is what politicians do because this is his political opponent. Now, what's important to notice is that they worked together in coalition, SPD and CDU. They were in the so-called Grand Coalition. And as they were in the Grand Coalition during Merkel times, they were both losing and losing and losing. But SPD was losing more because it was in the kind of agenda that wasn't theirs. They were a junior partner together with SPD. So what's important now? What does Merz say he wants to do? It's very important that he is taking very radical position on foreign policy and quite conservative positions on the domestic. Now, radical, I mean in terms of being super Atlanticist. If Scholz is a reluctant Atlanticist and he says that he's supporting Ukraine, but he's not going to give Taurus weapons to Ukraine because he doesn't want to get Germany involved in a war more than it already is against Russia and for Ukraine. Now, Merz went on record that by saying that he is going to issue an ultimatum to Putin, and if Putin does not stop bombing Ukraine, actually it's not bombing Ukraine, he's bombing military targets at the front and not the cities. Anyway, then if Putin doesn't do this and that, then he would allow Taurus weapons to be used by Ukraine, and that would be a breaking moment. Now, the specialists tell us it's not going to happen because they don't have the maps and they don't have the capacity from their satellites to ensure the targeting of these missiles. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that he is positioning himself as talking to Putin in a very, very sort of condescending, demanding, dictatorial tone, which of course is something that marks him as a kind of a more Atlanticist than the Atlanticists. So that's the opposition to the current government from the right, so to speak. However, there is a much more interesting opposition, and that is called Alternative for Germany, AfD. Now, this party, of course, has been gaining tremendous popularity recently, and that's the only party, together with Sahra Wagenknecht, I'll speak about her later, who have been rising and growing as the SPD and CDU were losing their support. This party has been growing. Now, in public media, it is always accused of being extreme right. Now, I don't see anything particularly extreme right about it. And so let me just go over what exactly they have been saying. The leader is Alice Weidel. She's very articulate, very convincing, very impressive, a great speaker. And this is what she's been saying lately in the Bundestag. The first item, as you will recognize this item on the agenda, is immigration. So she's accusing the government of having open borders. She's also saying that it's not just now, that Scholz just continued what Angela Merkel did, and that is to say open borders, 3 million immigrants, and with this the rise of crime, the rise of insecurity, the rise of rate of murders and violent crimes, etc. So she proposes to shut down the borders, and if need be, to go against the European Union rules about the right of refugees, that Germany walks out of that regulation. So very strong, pretty much Trumpist attitude about the immigrants. Then she also is very, very strongly against the green agenda. She says that the nuclear power stations have to be put back in use and the new ones have to be built. That Germany has a lot of coal and it has to be used again with the new factories that would process it in environment-friendly ways. So she says that the taxes have to be lowered, exactly as Trump. She says that on foreign policy, she says that the only possible way out of the Ukraine war is peace negotiations. So she's very much exact opposite of what Maerz is saying. Now, another speaker from the AfD said in a couple of days ago in the Bundestag that instead of running for a chancellorship, Mr. Merz should be put in the psychiatric asylum because only a madman could propose to shoot German missiles on Russia, a nuclear power, a great power with nuclear weapons. That this is absolutely ridiculous, and this shows that he's unfit to be running for chancellorship. So as you can see, the AfD is pretty much a Trumpist agenda. They want to revive German industry. They want to lower the taxes. They want to restore German industrial might. And they also are quite clearly in favor of restoring German imports of Russian gas and Russian oil, because this is what German industry needs. And AfD in the two states, Thuringia is one of them, they got 23% over, they got the majority. CDU got only 21%. And then SPD only 8%. And then there was another, in Saxony, very similar results, and increase everywhere where the elections were held in the provincial elections. So AfD is definitely on the rise. And now I want to say a few words about another interesting political party, which is totally new, and it's called Sahra Wagenknecht Group. And now she is a splinter from the so-called left, and these were the former communists, or German communists, or the United Socialist Party, as it was called in the GDR. But Sahra Wagenknecht is absolutely amazing rising star. She is gaining more seats than another small party, Free Democrats, and in some places even more than the Greens. So she has pretty much very similar, but combining sort of the right and the left. It's very difficult to put her in a left. She is blamed always by the mainstream media as being pro-Putin, but in fact this is all labels. She is not pro-Putin. She basically says that Germany needs Russian gas and Russian oil, because not because it's Russian, but because it's cheap and because it's available. And the American one, which is brought from the ocean as a liquefied form, is 4 times more expensive. Therefore, it just doesn't make any sense to continue to buy American one. German industry needs the Russian one. She also says much more radically that it was NATO expansion that brought the Ukrainian war, that we should never have gotten into this war, meaning Germany. And this is the position that is shared by many people in the United States, including many in the Trump administration. So on some issues, she's like a Trump agenda in terms of a deal with the Russians. On some issues, she's very much like Alternative for Germany agenda, but she's certainly a rising voice in German politics. So, and then now a few words finishing up. What does it all mean? Now, it means that Germany is right now in a very precarious situation because the Merz, as CDU, he openly said that in any future coalition, he's not going to be with SPD. And the SPD the same. They don't want to have anything to do with CDU, which means the Grand Coalition is out. And obviously, they're not going to do any one of them with the Greens because the Green agenda is out too. They need to restore nuclear power stations and all kinds of other resources that the Greens don't want. So what then is the alternative? The only mathematical alternative that can come up is that Alternative for Germany allies with CDU, both so-called right parties. But they don't like each other, and they keep accusing each other, especially Alternative for Germany accuses CDU of persecution and of censorship and all kinds of abuse that it received. The way things stand now, it's pretty much an untenable, ungovernable situation. However, the most interesting thing to watch is how much gain will Alternative for Germany receive in the elections in February. It could be a big surprise if they come up on top. That would be a sensation. But even if they come up as they are now, number two, they could not be ignored. And they will have some kind of participation with them or taking into account their position is essential, which means that Germany is on the eve of dramatic events, and some of them echo what Mr. Trump has been saying. Thank you very much. Don't forget that I have several playlists and also subscribe to my channel and read my book From Vladimir Lenin to Vladimir Putin. All the best. Write your commentaries. Until next time, bye.